right. Welcome to From a Southside Point of View. I'm here with Josh Nelson from Socks Machine. We're going to talk a little bit about Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 4. Josh, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I just rewatched Chapter 4 shortly before we started streaming, so I got it fresh in my mind. And, when you have these types of shows, when you have the middle episodes, we've seen this in The Mandalorian, and some people have griped that, well, this was a pointless episode. But you need build-up episodes so you have that big payoff, especially in the last couple of episodes of a series. And I thought this was a really good setup episode and really build on the partnership of how Fennec and Boba Fett work together.
Yeah, I think I agree 100%. A setup episode, but you had to have one, right? Like you had to have kind of all these things come together. And the first thing I do want to talk about is that partnership. So I think, previously when we were talking, I was talking about how, I'm not trusting Fennec so much because it feels like a life debt and like it might be advantageous to her to have Boba Fett not be around. But as we found out, he saves her. She helps him get the ship back. Debt is paid in terms of that. And then she drops I'll go for a ride or go for the ride. So Fennec Shan, ride or die. I love it.
Yeah.
And so I did enjoy the conversation that they had in the desert about being hunters and not kind of continuing on in that path. I will, for just 1 second, want to go back to one of my insane theories. And so when they're first sitting out there, when she's just finding out that she has abs of steel, he gives her the black melon. And he's like, it takes some getting used to, but eventually you'll crave it. You know why you crave it? Because there's so much spice in all of Tatooine sand that, these melons that are filled with spice and water, you're going to crave this, so I'm continuing down the path of there's two main things that they care about here, and it's all the drugs and all the water. And that little black melon is both.
I could buy that.
But Josh, what did you think about the partnership that they kind of forge and the idea of them kind of basically stopping the hunting and becoming the bosses?
Well, I like the progress of Fennec because she's very reluctant to the idea first. Like when she asks, "Who are you?" and he says, "I'm Boba Fett." And then she doesn't believe him because Boba Fett is dead. And that's not really the case at all. Or he says, "I was dead," which is funny. But then her agreeing to get the ship back, which I know there's a whole drama right now online about renaming the ship. It's no longer Slave 1. It is Fire Spray.
Well, that's just the model. So they didn't really rename it. He just referred to it by the model name. He said, "I'm going to get my Buick" instead of "I'm going to get, Coco" or whatever he named it.
True. And that's fine. And yeah, I'm good with that. They don't need to name it Slave 1. I never really understood why it was named Slave 1 to begin with. Clone 1, sure. I get it. You're a clone. And there's one of you. Ta-da! There's your ship name. But as it continues to progress and just how, sure of himself Boba Fett is with this plan on taking over the house, taking over Jabba the Hutt's palace, to be specific, it seems like Fennec is selling herself on the idea. Like, Boba Fett is not very persuasive. He's just not. And not until the very end after the Sarlacc pit, when he said that I need someone that has muscle and brains, and you have both. So a little bit of flattery. If I'm gonna have a house, I need someone that has both. And I think for her, the life of an independent contractor is very tough. Even though she's a master assassin, she's terrific at what she does. She hunts people. That's dangerous. people hunt her, that's also very dangerous. And she, without Boba Fett, would have been dead. So maybe that near-death experience has completely changed her mind. And perhaps Boba Fett is right that while she was reluctant at first, this is her, the best idea that she's got right now to not only make more credits, but also stay alive. What did you think about the partnership between the two?
Well, I thought it was interesting that in her reluctance, I agree, kind of faded, but I think it was along the lines of, if I'm going to work for somebody, like, I want my freedom, I want to be able to do what I want. And then when Boba Fett kind of portrays it as, this isn't working for me. This is being part of a tribe. Like, I'm gonna create my own tribe. What I learned with the Tuskens was important to me, and that's how I want to live my life. And I think when she heard that, it kind of changed. This is a partnership. This is more of, we're in this together, as opposed to, I want you to work for me. Come off the road and work for me, kind of thing. I don't think she was down with that. That sounded like just having a single employer, and like, if you hate that employer, you're kind of stuck. When she goes to the idea of like, hey, if we make money, we make money, right? And so, like, I think, yeah, I agree. Like, she was coaxed into it eventually. I guess it didn't help it, or it didn't hurt, I should say, that the first thing Boba Fett did with his ship was just go and gun down a bunch
I
of
love
people.
that.
I think she was like, okay, yeah, this seems cool.
Yeah, the slight nod of approval to just wipe out the biker gang that totally took out your Tusken Raider camp. I just thought that was terrific, because what better way than to wipe out entire biker gang is to quietly fly behind them, and you can just see it from a distance as the ship coming in, like, oh, these guys are gonna get owned.
I mean, there's a few things in that whole series that were just great. Like, so one is some really good foreshadowing of when she says, speed bikers took out Tuskens. That's highly unlikely. I think that gives you a little more insight into, like, it probably wasn't just the speed bikers that did this. But the other thing that I really, really enjoyed, because apparently Boba just did not remember how he got out of the Sarlacc pit or anything. When they go back and it's still alive, and they use that, I think they call it like a seismic charge or something from his ship to kill the Sarlacc. That's one of my favorite things from the prequel, is just that like the sound, like it goes silent, and then you get that like delayed noise from it.
Yeah,
like, I love that. So to see it take out the Sarlacc was just completely enjoyable to me.
I also like the line, "Don't touch my buttons next time." I'm like, what do you mean? You would have been dead, Bubba. If Fennec doesn't unclip her seatbelt and press it, you would have been dead. Like,
and we also find out why he needs to be in the back to tank so often, because he just decided, I'm going to go back in the Sarlacc pit multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, also he's healed now, apparently.
Yes, he is. I think we did get a question in the comments from Jeff Muggs, with Bubba being fully healed. Do we think the flashbacks are done? I think this is a good question, Chorizy. I am siding to yes, the flashbacks are done, unless Bubba gets seriously hurt in episode 5 and he returns to the tank. But the tank is clearly the plot device that is sending us to the past, or these flashbacks, these memory flashbacks of Boba Fett. And if he's fully healed and he doesn't have use of the tank, then maybe we are done seeing the flashbacks, and moving forward, we are just in the present of the story.
I would think so, right? We're basically caught up. The only thing that we don't have is how he stumbled upon uh, Timothy Oliphant, Cobb Vanth, basically
Mhm.
his area, and if there was anything there. Um, I don't think they're gonna drag that group of people into this. I don't think that that's gonna be like. I don't think it's gonna be like like we're in a crazy scene of a big fight with the Pikes and Boba Fett and whoever his army's gonna be, and all of a sudden like Timothy Oliphant's off the top of a cliff picking off a pike or something. Like I don't see that happening. So there's nothing else really for us to learn. We're up to present day. The it it pretty much explained with the flares going off, um, and then that's immediately after kind of he'd he'd left his burned down town behind. That we saw the 5 years that passed like that was encapsulated, and now we're up to the time of the Mandalorian. So I think we're caught up.
Yeah,
So I don't see more flashbacks.
the flares are from chapter 5 of season 1 of the Mandalorian, the gunslinger, right?
Right.
When they're in the speeders and Din is using
The
the
flares
flashes.
to
Right.
blind Fennec as they come at her.
Yeah. And by the time that Bubba gets there, she's already been shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's been laying there for a while, because at the end of that episode, you see someone walking up to Fennec's body. And we were all wondering who could it be, a couple of years ago, back in 2019. And now we know it's obvious it's Boba Fett. So Boba Fett's been teased since 2019 that he was going to be returning. And I'm sure that Jon Favreau had this written back in 2019, the Book of Boba Fett, so they can do production and tie everything in together as far as the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. I really enjoyed and how they connected those two, like from a distance while he's at the campfire with the bantha. By the way, kudos to Lucasfilm. This bantha work, especially in this episode, was
Awesome.
really impressive. Like, I I know people call it a puppet, but the robotics, because he's writing that and then they're both writing it. Like, you could take that and put it in Disney World. And instead of like elephant rides for the little kids, you could have little kids up there and they could just ride a bantha on a track. And that would be amazing. That'd be so much fun. Like, that line would be like 3 hours long just to ride a bantha for 5 minutes. But that was really impressive work they did.
Yeah, I mean the bantha eating and burping and all of that was fantastic. I even just the attention to detail when he's like leaning against it at night and you can see it breathing behind him. Like all those little things about it was just made it extra cool. Because I mean, they could have just I'm sure they could have just done it in the volume where he's just on like a little, like when they did the blurgs, like they could have done it the same, where it's not really there and it's just like kind of a little piece and the rest is kind of all filled in. They could have done that. Would have been cheaper, probably would have looked good. They chose to like kind of go over the top and do something really cool. I love that. I want more of that. I'm not disappointed that the huts are like CGI, but like,
Yeah.
it would have been awesome if they did that for them. But as we're talking about this and we're talking about him and Fennec talking, he says something to me that was very interesting. And he talks about how I'm going to kill that bloated guy that double crossed me. So basically, I think I have it here. Yeah. Then I'm going to kill that bloated pig who double crossed me, is the Boba line. I assume talking about Bib Fortuna. That's the way that she carried on. That's the way that Fennec carried on the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When did Bib Fortuna double cross Boba Fett? Like, I'm trying to like think of what could have happened.
Isn't the biker gang under Bib Fortuna?
Maybe that's what it is. Because like for the life of me, I'm just sitting there going like, what does Bib Fortuna have to do with any of this? I could see that the biker gang would be beneath him. Did he control that? Was that his doing? So maybe it's just that Boba feels that it was his bib that kind of did this to them. And maybe he's just wrong. And maybe it's, and he killed Bib, but didn't really need to. But yeah, I was just sitting there like, I don't quite remember when Bib would have done this because they haven't seen each other. But maybe, to the earlier question, maybe there are some more flashbacks that need to happen. Maybe we need to see what happened with Bib Fortuna. Or possibly they're just going to retcon and say that Bib messed with Boba's jetpack, and that's why he fell in the Sarlacc pit. So he wasn't as clumsy as we all thought. He was sabotaged by Bib Fortuna.
Oh man,
I hope that's not the case. Just to be clear.
Oh man, no, I'm going to assume the biker gang was working for Bib Fortuna, and Bib made a deal with the Pikes to wipe out the Tusken Raiders. And we talked about this last episode when Boba Fett is speaking to the Pikes about as far as the toll and the money for protection. While he's away from the camp gets attacked. And
right.
And that's what I assume that Boba Fett is saying, that he got, double crossed by Bib Fortuna.
So do you think Bib then knew that Boba Fett was alive?
That's a good question.
Or did he just think it was the Tuskens and just like, let's kill him?
Maybe he was told by the biker gang that they killed everyone. And when they say that they killed everyone, maybe he assumes that also includes Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Because he's very shocked to see Boba Fett at the end of season 2, The Mandalorian, in the post-credits scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that shock turns to horror, I would say, in moments for him.
Yes.
I did like that they flashed that back. Like, you're thinking of all these sweet memories of the Tuskens and stuff, and then you're like, yeah, and then I shot that guy. That was awesome. This was really like his finish of healing in the back of the tank was accompanied by him killing a lot of people.
Yes.
But that, that's an interesting thing too, is that he's fully healed, like we mentioned earlier. And Jeff asked a question in the comments about, what were the Jango Fett scenes? Like, what's the point of the Jango Fett scenes? And I think, that's a little bit to the point when he comes out of the tank and they say he's fully healed, and Fennec asks about what about the emotional scars?
Yeah,
and I think that there's
scars. Yeah,
there's still a lot of that. There's still a lot of that there, and I think that that's partially why the Jango Fett kind of scenes are important. Like the fact that his father, we have to air quotes father, but his father was taken from him, and now his tribe was taken from him, and so it's all the more reason that like he wants to build this new tribe, this new thing, this new family for himself that he's just never had. So I think that that's kind of where the Jango piece kind of fits into the whole puzzle that is Boba Fett, who's been alone his whole life, and like that kind of the tragedy of that. So he comes out of the tank. We're done with the flashbacks now, and then we've got this kind of straight out of the Godfather scene with the heads of the families, basically. So there's 3 families, and as opposed to 5, but that's really the only difference, other than, as you can see at the bottom of the screen here, the Rancor. That's the only other difference, right? That's but so I love this scene. I love the Godfather. Josh, what did you think about this scene, and like how will this kind of fragile alliance that they've put together work?
I thought it was really well done, because you have, I think, 2 houses that were willing to accept the neutrality, right? Because Boba Fett's first plan is we need a defensive, alliance against the Pikes. But one house is already making some money working with the Pikes, selling their spice to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a conflict of interest for one house to work with Boba Fett because they're paying us. So I'm sorry, you're not paying me. This is not much of a partnership, Boba Fett. And then when everything changes, like the conversation's not going great because the question was posed, why don't we just kill you and take what we want? And then the Rancor comes in and it's like, oh, that's why. Because if you press a button, we're all going to die. I like that aspect, but I think one of these three houses, maybe all three, are going to betray Boba Fett. That's just how I feel. And eventually, after Bubba takes care of the Pikes, I think he's going to turn around. He's going to take out those three houses as well. Because I don't think they're going to remain neutral. How did you feel about that scene?
So, like I said, I felt like it was kind of straight out of The Godfather, and I think in The Godfather, there's the one person is like really vocally against
right
Don Corleone, but much like a great line out of American Gangster, where it's the loudest one in the room is the weakest. In the case of The Godfather, that was exactly the case. So like the guy who was most vocal was actually under the thumb of another guy at the table. And when they leave the meeting, there's the classic line. I think it was Barzini all along, I think we've got that here. I think we've got a similar situation. And I think the fact that he was mentioned earlier in the series, he shows up now. Doc Strassi is probably the one that's going to double cross him.
Yes.
And I think that it's kind of interesting because Black Chrysanthemum would love to kill Doc Strassi. You can see from this episode that he, much like other Wookiees, does not like Trandoshans, mostly because Trandoshans enslave them and hunt them. So that's the two things that Trandoshans are known for with Wookiees. So could be a great payoff to see Black Chrysanthemum just demolish that guy at some point. But yeah, and I think like the drug piece is the same, right? They're talking about spice in The Godfather. It's cocaine. It's like all of these things have these similarities and these lines. I find it funny that Robert Rodriguez is, if this is the case, if he double crosses him, then Robert Rodriguez is basically voicing all of the actors that are going to double cross, all the characters that are going to double cross Boba Fett during the series. But yeah, so I kind of felt like that's where this is going, which could lead to some very interesting things later on, because there's a lot of people at play now, right? You've got just so many different hands in the jar, and it sounds like towards the end of the episode that we are going to get more hands into the proverbial cookie jar here. So Josh, what did you think about, what do you think about the Doc Strassi thing? Do you think that he's possibly the one, or do you think it's just going to be everyone? It's going to be like a free for all.
That's a good question. I think definitely Doc Strassi for sure. But is this going to be the case, Chorizy, that if one house betrays Boba Fett, that they all betray Boba Fett? Because he's counting on them to act in their self-interest. That's all that Boba Fett can trust, is that they will act in their own self-interest. So right. If it's in their best self-interest to work with the Pikes, and Boba Fett knows this, that he knows that they lied to him and he won't have any remorse taking out their house. Right. Yeah. It won't be an unprovoked attack, because if there's an unprovoked attack and the other houses see this as, crossing the line, then you're making more enemies than you had before the attack. My gut feeling is that Boba Fett's going to have to take on the Pikes, and they're going to let him fight the Pikes because the other houses probably think you're going to lose. So Yeah, we'll
It'll just be
remain
fine.
neutral. But if the Pikes come and they drop a bunch of credits at our door asking for help to take you out, we're going to take you out because that's in our best self-interest. We're getting paid for you to not live anymore. And it's not just going to be the fight against the Pikes. I do think before this series ends that Boba Fett's going to have to turn around and take out the other houses and attempt to unite everyone in Mos Espa under his rule.
Does he have a nephew that'll be getting christened at any point? Because I think we could take out the heads of the 5 families during that. So we'll see what awesome celebration. Maybe it's the mods getting new bikes, and they during that, it's all going down. But so this brings us to the point at the end of the episode where they say, we're going to need an army, and it's the least subtle moment in any movie ever with their music, but you hear the Mandalorian theme come.
Not true. I will argue against that. If you rewatch season 2 of The Mandalorian, that's Luke Skywalker in the X-Wing based on the music.
Okay. So, well, I want to talk.
We were all distracted visually, but you are correct that was not a subtle musical hint.
Yeah.
In this episode.
I do want to talk about the idea of Jedi in just a moment, but let's take a look at who Boba's army might be. Let's go. I started at the end. That's a good idea. So who will Boba Fett's army be in this show, right? Like, so I think the first question, and because we know pretty much that we're going to get Din, right? So like we go look at his current crew.
Yeah.
He's got Black Chrysanthemum. He's got the Mos Vespa gang. He's got Fennec, and then he's got the Gamorreans. This is pretty much all that he's got. I mean, he's got a torture droid too, but he's not really using that to its full potential.
And a Rancor.
He's got a Rancor. I mean, like, we know he's going to ride that into town.
I hope so.
That's going to happen.
That'd be so awesome. I didn't see your litter. Oh, never mind.
And then, but we've got Din coming, right? I think that's who you would think is coming.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, he bringing Mandalorians or is he bringing Grief Karga? And I will start by saying he is not bringing Jedi, but I hope that he suggests it. I hope that he suggests to Boba Fett, I know some Jedi, speaking of Ahsoka and Luke, and I cannot wait for Boba to be like, no, fuck that. I a Jedi cut my dad's head off, and then another one was getting executed when I got thrown into the Sarlacc pit. So I'm out on Jedi. And by the way, Luke Skywalker's alive. I'm even more pissed now.
Yeah.
So I think it's either going to be some Mandalorians come with Din, or Grief Karga comes with Din, and maybe brings a bunch of kind of nameless bounty hunters. So which do you think is more likely to happen?
I'm going to say Grief. One, because I need more Carl Weathers in Star Wars. Okay.
Awesome.
I need more. But after not just rewatching this episode, but rewatching chapter 5 of season 1 of The Mandalorian with Fennec. Fennec's part of the guild. So I think that's what she's hinting at. She asked, about the treasure reserve at the very end of this episode. And Boba Fett said, I have plenty of credits. What I am lacking is muscle. And Fennec says, credits can buy muscle if you know where to look. And I think that's knowing where to look is going to the guild and hiring other bounty hunters, part of the guild, to act as that muscle. So out of these two, I'm going to say it's more Carl Weathers, which would be fantastic. Now, we cannot completely discount seeing Bo-Katan, because that angle would be Din telling Bo, because she needed a ship, and we saw in season 2 of The Mandalorian that Din was able to help Bo-Katan get a transport ship, which is what they're going to need if they're going to take over or retake over Mandalore, that helping against the Pikes gives the ability for Bo-Katan to acquire more credits or acquire more equipment in her pursuit to take over her home and, you know, her rightful place on the throne in Mandalore. So there is that possible angle as well. I can't completely discount it. I would love to see more Bo-Katan, but I think out of these two options, I think using the guild is more likely out of the two, Chorizy.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, let's say we have this awesome fight scene. Based on the way that this show has gone, would you expect it to be all of a sudden, just like in The Mandalorian, when he's trying to take the child and get to his ship, and all the Mandalorians come and they're in the sky, and it's like this battle like that? Would you expect that, or would you expect more of a street fight? And I am leaning towards the street fight. I think it's going to be more gritty. I think there's going to be a lot of more hand-to-hand combat than there is people flying through the sky and shooting things at each other. And I think if that's the case, then I think it's going to be grief coming with it.
Yeah.
Right. And saying like, here's some guys I brought. Man, I would love if he's got another IG unit, because that was just absolutely fun watching that thing fight. Like, you put that thing in the middle of the street and just like picking off Pikes and Trandoshans and Aqualish and whoever is in the way, like that would be amazing. Yeah. But I think it's going to be more of a hand-to-hand gritty fight. You're going to see Black Chrysanthemum ripping some people apart. You're going to see Fennec kicking people in the face. Like, you're definitely going to see Fennec kick the Pike helmet off of somebody, and then like a bullet just go through the dude's head from, you know, whoever else is helping out.
Yeah.
So I thinking about how they would kind of choreograph a fight for this show, it just feels a lot more like it would be on the ground with a bunch of people just going at it. So we're pretty sure we're getting Din, right? We're pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we're not getting Jedi. Boba is not going to be down with that. So let's get a wild card here. Hondo Ohnaka. Are we going to see Hondo in this show? Josh, what do you think?
I hope so. We saw some Weequays at Jabba's palace when Bubba and Fennec are basically invading to steal his ship back. And I'm hoping that is foreshadowing that we're going to see Hondo Ohnaka, who is one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars universe. I really hope so, because one, he's hilarious, and two, he's a pirate. So, you're going after the Pikes. Pikes have spice. Ooh, I'd be very interested. And he's the kind of pirate that would steal from the Pikes and then turn around and sell it back to the Pikes. Oh, I love Hondo. So I'm really hoping it's Hondo, and Fennec makes that introduction for Boba Fett, and it's Hondo's pirates that will be the muscle for Boba Fett in their next step as far as going after the Pikes.
See, there's a reason that I like this idea, and it's similar to the reason why I like getting the Bounty Hunters Guild, is because if you get all characters that are known, and they kind of have like this all-star team of an army for Boba, you're not going to kill any of them.
Mm-hmm.
When you have Hondo come and he's got 150 nondescript pirates, you're just going to let them get picked off. It's going to make more sense. Like, there's the faceless Pikes are going to get blown up. There's going to be Trandoshans getting blown up. There's going to be Hondo's crew getting blown up. And like, no one's going to bat an eye. No one's going to be like, oh man, we lost that awesome character. You can't do anything now with that character. They're collateral damage. So I kind of like that idea. I also could see them just doing like a really quick Hondo, like, hey, we need a bunch of guns. You know, we need a bunch of weaponry. And Hondo just shows up, drops some stuff off, has a couple quick jokes, and then he's out of there. I like that too, but I agree. Give us Hondo. I will gladly take some Hondo.
This is the series I have Hondo and Anka, and if it goes well, hopefully we see Hondo as well in season 3 of The Mandalorian. But it's time. It's time to bring Hondo into the fold.
I mean, I have a feeling he's definitely coming back for whenever Ezra re-enters the fold, because they had a connection. Those two had a connection in Rebels, and I feel like that will definitely happen. But you got to introduce him now. You got you got to bring him into live action, so there's a little bit more of an understanding for people who don't watch the cartoons of like who this dude is, why he's awesome, and then kind of when he shows up in that show, then like everybody will be like, yes, this guy, I love this guy. So I like the idea quite a bit. We'll introduce him somehow here. That would be, I would definitely jump up. I wouldn't jump up as much as I did when Luke Skywalker showed up and chopped everybody's heads off, but I would definitely get out of my seat if I see Hondo.
Yeah. Make it happen.
Come on, Disney. I know you're watching. Your already written show that's already filmed. Make it happen. So, I was just mentioning we're not going to have an all-star team, but could there be one kind of big name from Boba's past? And we're going to call these friends. We'll quote friend here because, like, I don't know that you actually have friends when you're a bounty hunter. But so up here, I've got Bossk, Dengar, Embo, and Cad Bane. At points of Boba's life, he's interacted with all of them. Cad Bane, I think, may be pretty much off screen. Like, I think that was, I don't think that they got into that storyline in Clone Wars, but it existed. So we're just going to consider that they know each other. But I think that, if we're going to take one of these guys, who are you taking, Josh? Who is the guy that you think Boba would call on in this moment of need?
So I think what we're going to see 2 of these characters. I think Bossk is going to work with Boba Fett because that house is going to hire Bossk to work with Boba Fett and possibly assassinate Boba Fett going up against the Pikes. I think we're going to see the Pikes hire Cad Bane to take out Boba Fett. And we have talked this up, and this is something that we definitely want to see in live action. We want to see another duel with Fennec and Cad Bane again, because that was awesome in Bad Batch. And I want to see that again, a second duel between these two, especially if your street fight theory is correct. So I think we're going to see 2. One supposed to be Boba Fett's friend being part of his muscle, and then Cad Bane being hired by the Pikes to be a direct enemy of Boba Fett and Fennec.
I like that. I like that a lot. And then those are 2 of the characters that I was really thinking of as well. In different ways, though. So I was thinking that if Boba Fett was going to go after Bossk, he could convince him, hey, look, I know the Trandoshans are going to double cross me. Why don't you come and take over that family? We'll win the war, and then you take over and get this. We'll get rid of this guy. We'll get rid of Doc, and you'll be in there. I could see that. I don't see them bringing in Embo. Like, I don't see that fits very well in this one. Right. Dengar, in the comics, I believe they're pretty close. Like, they're friends. So, like, I could see that being like the one bounty hunter that he trusts. And Dengar looks like he could go into the back to tank a little bit too. So maybe that's how he's paid. But so the one use I could see for Cad Bane the one use. I don't see him being in the war that they're about to start. But if this truly is, rebooting Godfather and taking from that, the scene I mentioned earlier during the christening, when they take care of the family's business and like the heads of the 5 families get the rest of them get killed. I could see Cad Bane being hired to do that.
Yeah.
To be like, this is all over. You think that like everything's settling, and then Cad Bane walks in and picks off each of these guys, because there's going to have to be this kind of feeling of there's no threats to Boba Fett now, right? Like they got rid of the Pikes, they kill the heads of the 3 families. Boba's all good, and that's when you get whoever the real big bad is. And that might end the season. Like that might just be the reveal to end the season. Josh, I was telling you about this. We're watching New Rock Stars, and they caught at the very end of the music, at the very end of the show, there was the Crimson Dawn music just thrown in there, just in the end credits scene when no one's paying attention. This is at the time when I'm like, oh man, I better get back to work. That's the point of the show that I was at. But he caught that the Crimson Dawn music came on, and like, okay, there you go. You're gonna clean it all up, and then Crimson Dawn's gonna walk in and be like, "What'd you do here? This is our territory."
Right. And we got this comment from Adam Zadinsky, and he wrote to us. I saw a theory that maybe Kira shows up in the series, probably a long shot theory, but that'd be dope. I don't know if they have been dropping this musical Easter egg in every episode. I'm going to have to go back and watch the credits of each episode to see if the Crimson Dawn theme has been part of every single episode. And they've been hinting at this possibility the entire time. But I think it's getting stronger. And if we don't see, what we may see? We may see Emilia Clarke, Kira, at the very end of this episode, possibly teasing maybe a season 2, or teasing the progression, continuing to push the story forward in this new Star Wars universe to the next series.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that, this would tease into something else. I don't think they have enough episodes to bring in Crimson Dawn and have that
I agree
work properly. It seems like they would really be rushing it or really be forced. But I could see a communication between the Pikes and Emilia Clarke, Kira, where she's just telling him, you better not lose control of of this area, right? We've got all this spice, we've got all this delicious water. We
got black melons for days.
Oh man, the black melon market, man. I'm gonna get in on that. But yeah, like so I could definitely see that. But like to recap, here's what we're thinking. I think, Josh, we're on the same page now. We've got the main crew that he's already got.
Mm-hmm.
Din's gonna show up, probably bring some bounty hunters with him. Not anyone known, just some random bounty hunters that are easy to get picked off. And then and Carl Weathers obviously will be there.
Yes, we need Carl.
Hondo Ohnaka is going to show up in some form.
Yes.
And whether he's just the arms dealer or whether he's bringing pirates as backup. And then I think we're both on the same page that Bosk is going to be in this. We just are not sure whose side he's on. And I think even when we see him, when we're talking about this next week, let's say he shows up and he says whose side he's on, we still won't know.
Right.
So, and then I think we also agree that like once this is cleaned up, there is another big bad that's going to kind of swoop in, and this is going to be the next series. Whatever it is, whether it's just Boba Fett series rolls into the Mandalorian, or there's some new series that we don't know about. I I agree. Like, I think you're going to get that tease of whoever this is.
Well, I mean, the next Star Wars series is Obi-Wan Kenobi, so we go back in the past before
We
New
might
Hope.
we might get Black Chrysanthemum in that one though.
That's true. They're going to start shooting Ahsoka this spring. So
Okay.
we still may be a year or more away from getting that show. So maybe there's going to be a gap unless they're shooting Mandalorian season 3 right now.
I believe they are. I
Okay.
believe that is in production right now. So that should be
Okay.
coming out at the end of this year, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone has been hyping this up, and I thought it was going to be the next episode that Dave Filoni wrote. No, Dave wrote episode 6 of
Okay.
this series, and Jeff dropped kind of a mini bomb, let's say a grenade of a thought. What about the Bad Batch? If the Bad Batch are still alive, would, because Dave's writing the episode, bring them into the fold for additional muscle because they're mercenaries? Is that a possibility, or are they just too old at this moment?
They're old because
They're old, yeah.
I don't think that I believe their age accelerated, just like the other clones, because Omega was there when they were made, and Omega was young in that series. So they're like, so as big and tough as they are, they're like 10 years old in that show.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
so
we've
like,
been also talking about Rex. Is Rex going to be part of the Ahsoka series?
if I don't know what the aging curve is like for clones. So maybe they're just old but still have all of these
Traits. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like they could be useful. They're technically his brothers.
Yes.
That would be an interesting spin to see them come in, and they could be mercenaries at this point, right? I mean, like,
well, they are. I mean,
they like,
yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, well, they
by
were,
choice.
They were, 19 years ago or whatever when we see them, or 20 years ago when we last see them. So I don't know. I would love to see it. I mean, I haven't heard of the Rock being part of this, so I'm not sure who's going to play Wrecker. But I'm sure it's someone with an incredible cod diet, just like Rock.
It'd be kind of funny if it's Dave Bautista.
Oh, that would be a good casting. I think unfortunately John Cena is very busy with his own show, so like, right. I don't think it's gonna be him. So, but yeah, Dave Bautista would be a good one.
Yeah, I can't wait for Wednesday when we see episode 5, because I think this is going to be a terrific episode. I'm pretty excited about it because I think we're going to really see the story accelerate. I think we're going to have one hell of a cliffhanger after episode 5. And next week when we chat, Chorizy, we are going to be pondering which of the characters that Dave Filoni has created that we're going to see in episode 6. So for those that have felt like the last 2 episodes have been maybe on the slower side, or the story's not really picking up after a terrific chapter 2 episode, which still I think is the best episode so far of this series. We're in act 2 right now. I think we're really going to speed up to act 3, and we're really going to be moving, and there's going to be a lot coming at us. And I can't wait until Wednesday. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. And I'm even more excited to talk about it with you next week. Josh, thanks for jumping on. And this was awesome. And I'm getting more and more excited for this show as we go, even though this was an episode where not a ton happened. Mm-hmm. It just kind of like increased my enthusiasm for like what could happen next. So yep. It's quite a fun ride, and I look forward to talking to you about it next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.